Humans might not have the power to conquer nature,
but they can destroy themselves.
This film is inspired by real events. If you're going through a difficult time in life, maybe this story will rekindle your passion for living. In 1981, in Bolivia, South America, 27-year-old Yossi was weary of the fast-paced city life. He decided to embark on a journey. His first destination was a marina. From there, Yossi planned to board a boat to travel to the center of the country. Soon, a small boat arrived, and once Yossi got on, his excitement was evident. He imagined the trip would be ideal. However, in truth, it was the beginning of a nightmare. After a long and exhausting trip, Yossi finally reached his dream destination. It was here, in the heart of La Paz, that Yossi's lively and charismatic nature helped him connect with two like-minded individuals, Marcus, a Swedish teacher who wore glasses, and Kevin, an adventurous photographer. The three shared common interests and quickly became close friends. During the day, they explored the streets of La Paz, and at night, they immersed themselves in the dazzling nightlife. But within just a few days, Yossi lost enthusiasm for everything and everyone around him. He suddenly began questioning the purpose of his trip and whether traveling was simply about finding another place to sleep. Then, on the day before the trip was meant to end, Yossi encountered an American man who introduced himself as Carl. He claimed to be a tour guide with extensive experience in South America. Carl presented an intriguing plan, an expedition deep into the mysterious Amazon rainforest. He spoke of undiscovered primitive tribes and breathtaking landscapes that Yossi had never imagined. For just $50, Carl promised Yossi an unforgettable adventure. Seeing the captivating photos of the tribes, Yossi's sense of excitement reignited. Back at the hotel, he convinced his two new friends to join him. When they learned the destination was the Amazon jungle, Kevin expressed skepticism, suspecting it could be a scam. After all, venturing into such a dangerous area seemed reckless. Yet, by the next day, Carl managed to persuade all of them with his words. He sparked Marcus's curiosity about the tribes and satisfied Kevin's craving for rare sights. As for Yossi, he became even more enthralled by Carl's intriguing tales. Just a few days later, the four men embarked on a journey into the depths of the Amazon rainforest. After covering a short distance, Carl informed them that the expedition would last approximately 3 weeks. He emphasized the importance of sticking to the plan for survival. At first, everything seemed to go smoothly. The lush vegetation around them was mesmerizing, and the variety of wildlife was an incredible spectacle. With Carl leading the way, the adventure began full of promise. Their first destination was a secluded tribe, a place only Carl seemed capable of locating. For Yossi, it was a dream come true. He never imagined he'd ever reach such a place. While there, Yossi discovered a small grain of gold in the river, and Kevin captured some breathtaking photos. It felt like the $50 was more than worth it. However, the excitement didn't last long. Shortly after leaving the tribe, an unexpected issue arose. Marcus, who was already in poor condition, developed painful blisters on the soles of his feet. His injury slowed the group's progress. Yossi and Kevin felt frustrated, but chose not to voice their concerns. By the 5th day, Marcus's condition had worsened, and the blisters had become severe. This forced the group to halt and rest. With limited food supplies, Carl suggested they abandon the expedition and wait for Marcus to recover before heading back. Yossi and Kevin, however, were unwilling to give up so easily. After some discussion, they decided Carl would take Marcus back along the same route, while Yossi and Kevin would continue onward. Carl mentioned he had a specific jungle trail in mind. Now, without their guide, Yossi and Kevin were left to travel downstream on a raft. At first, the journey was smooth and relaxing, but as time
even
passed,
allowing them to nap on the
Kevin
raft.
noticed the growing danger.
But as time passed,
the river's current suddenly became
growing
much
danger.
stronger. The river's current suddenly became much stronger. He quickly woke Yossi,
overturn the
who was
raft.
lying beside him.
He quickly woke
Both of them
Yossi,
grabbed their
who was
paddles
lying beside
and
him.
tried to steer
Both of them
toward the
grabbed
shore.
their paddles,
However,
and tried to
the river's
steer toward the
powerful
shore.
current rendered
However,
their efforts useless.
the river's powerful
Before
current
long,
rendered their efforts
the raft
useless.
was swept into
Before
a treacherous
long,
canyon.
the raft was
crashing
swept
against
into
a
a
reef.
treacherous canyon.
Fortunately,
crashing
the raft
against
got
a reef,
stuck, preventing
Fortunately,
it from being
the
destroyed
raft
immediately.
got stuck, but
preventing
Yossi
it from
and
being
Kevin were
destroyed
now in a
immediately.
life-threatening
But
situation.
Yossi and Kevin were
The
now
raft
in a
wouldn't hold out for
life-threatening
long.
situation.
Kevin decided
The
to dive
raft
into the
wouldn't hold
water
out for long
and swim to
Kevin
shore.
decided to dive into the
Yossi,
water,
who wasn't
and
confident
swim
in
to
his
shore.
swimming abilities,
Yossi,
remained
who
on the
wasn't
raft,
confident in his
unable to
swimming
follow.
abilities,
In a
remained on the
desperate
raft.
moment, unable
Kevin
to
came
follow.
up with a plan.
In a desperate
He
moment,
told Yossi
Kevin
to
came
throw
up
his
with a
machete
plan.
to the shore so
He told
he
Yossi
could cut
to throw his
vines
machete
and
to the
fashion a
shore
rope.
so
Yossi
he could
followed
cut
Kevin's
vines and fashion
instructions,
a rope.
but a sudden
Yossi
current
followed
knocked him
Kevin's
off the raft.
instructions.
The
But a
unexpected
sudden current
force
knocked him
left
off the
Yossi
raft.
disoriented.
The unexpected
Unable to
force
see
left
or hear
Yossi
properly.
disoriented.
He didn't know
Unable
how
to
long
see
he had been
or hear
underwater,
properly.
but eventually
He didn't know how
he
long he had
surfaced
been
and
underwater,
managed to
but
catch his breath.
eventually
He
by that
surfaced
point,
and managed
however,
to catch his breath.
the river had
By
carried
that
him
point,
far away
however,
from Kevin.
the river
Summoning
had
all
carried
his
him
strength,
far away from
Yossi
Kevin.
climbed onto the
Summoning
riverbank
all his
as the
strength,
water finally
Yossi
began
climbed
to
onto
calm.
the riverbank as
Yossi
the water
tried calling out to
finally
Kevin,
began to
hoping
calm.
they could reunite.
Yossi tried
But
calling
it
out to
was
Kevin,
clear that wasn't
hoping
possible.
they could reunite. The two were
But
now
it was clear
separated
that
by
wasn't
several
possible.
kilometers.
The two were now
Realizing
separated
he was
by
completely
several
on his own.
kilometers.
Yossi
Realizing
prepared
he was
to make his
completely
way
on his
through the
own.
jungle.
Yossi
When he
prepared
finally
to make
stood
his
up
way
and
through the
assessed his
jungle.
surroundings,
When he
finally
found
stood
himself
up and
facing
assessed
a
his
steep
surroundings.
cliff.
He found
Fortunately,
himself
he had learned
facing
some
a
basic
steep
climbing
cliff.
techniques from Carl during the
Fortunately, he had
past few
learned some
days.
basic climbing techniques
Yossi
from
took
Carl
a
during
long
the past
time to
few
climb
days.
to the top of the cliff.
Yossi took a
However,
long
he
time to
lost
climb
his
to the top
balance
of the
and
cliff.
fell.
However,
Fortunately,
he lost his
he
balance
managed to
and
grab
fell.
hold of a rock
Fortunately,
just in time.
he managed
Without
to grab
it, he
hold
would have
of a
been
rock
crushed
just
at the
in
bottom.
time.
After
Without
taking
it,
a
he would
brief
have been
rest,
crushed at the
Yossi
bottom.
decided to give
After taking
climbing
a
another
brief
try.
rest,
This
Yossi
time,
decided to give
he
climbing
proceeded
another
more
try.
carefully.
This time,
Learning from his earlier
he proceeded
mistake.
more carefully.
Before long,
learning from
he
his
finally
earlier
made it to
mistake.
the top.
Before
But
long,
as he looked out
he
over
finally
the
made
vast
it to the
jungle,
top.
its
But as he
canopy
looked out over
stretching
the
endlessly,
vast jungle,
he realized
its
he had
canopy
no
stretching
idea which
endlessly.
direction to take.
He realized he had
Night
no
soon
idea
fell,
which
and
direction to
Yossi
take.
found a small
Night
corner
soon
to rest.
fell,
To
and
his
Yossi
dismay,
found a small
it
corner
began
to
to
rest.
rain. To his
Cold
dismay,
and hungry,
it began
he
to
felt
rain.
his situation
Cold
slipping
and
further
hungry.
and further
He felt
out of
his
his control.
situation slipping
The
further
following
and
morning,
further out of his
Yossi woke
control.
up to the sound
The
of
following
bottles
morning,
clinking.
Yossi
Rushing
woke
to
up to the
investigate,
sound of bottles
he discovered
clinking.
it was his backpack.
Rushing to investigate,
Previously left
he
behind
discovered
on
it was
the
his
raft.
backpack.
Realizing
Previously
how
left
crucial it could
behind
be
on the
for his
raft.
survival,
Realizing
he ran
how
along the
crucial
river
it
to
could be
catch
for
it.
his survival.
Just as the
He ran
backpack was
along the
about to
river to
disappear
catch
into
it.
the canyon,
Just as the
Yossi
backpack was
leaped
about to
and
disappear
managed
into
to
the
grab
canyon,
hold of it.
Yossi
Searching
leaped
through the
and
bag,
managed to
he
grab
found a
hold of
small
it.
notebook.
Searching through the
A
bag,
family heirloom
he found a
passed
small
down for
notebook.
3 generations.
A family heirloom
Seeing it
passed down
rekindled
for
his
3
determination
generations
to survive.
Seeing it rekindled his
Inspired,
determination
he resolved
to
to
survive.
reunite with Kevin
Inspired,
and escape
he
the jungle
resolved
together.
to reunite with Kevin
However,
and
after
escape
walking
the
for
jungle
hours,
together. He found no trace
after
of
walking
Kevin.
for hours,
It seemed
he
possible
found
that
no
Kevin had
trace
left
of
the
Kevin.
area.
It
Still,
seemed possible that
Yossi
Kevin had left the
refused to
area.
give up hope.
Still,
Pulling out the map from
Yossi
his bag,
refused to give up hope.
Yossi studied
Pulling
it
out the
carefully,
map from his
trying to
bag,
figure out a safe
Yossi
route.
studied it
With
carefully,
a sense of direction,
trying to figure out a safe
he
route.
continued his trek.
With a sense of direction,
As he moved forward,
he continued
something
his
fell
trek.
in front of him.
As he moved
Wild
forward,
fruits.
something fell in
Hungry
front of
and
him.
desperate.
Wild
Yossi
fruits.
eagerly climbed
Hungry
the tree
and
to
desperate.
retrieve them.
Yossi
But
eagerly
he failed to
climbed
notice
the
the
tree to
snake
retrieve
coiled
them.
in the branches
But
above.
he failed to notice
Startled,
the snake
he fell to
coiled
the
in the
ground.
branches above.
After a moment
Startled,
of
he
hesitation,
fell to the ground.
His hunger
After a moment
overpowered
of
his
hesitation,
fear. Determined,
his hunger
Yossi
overpowered
climbed
his
back
fear.
up.
Determined,
Grabbed the snake.
Yossi
and
climbed
flung
back
it
up,
away. Grabbed
then,
the snake.
with a sharp
and
rock, he
flung
killed
it
it
away.
quickly.
Then,
This
with
bold
a sharp
act
rock,
marked
he
an
killed it
important
quickly.
step in his fight
This
for
bold
bold act marked an important step in his fight for survival.
Yossi struggled to find
in the
more
days that
food.
followed,
As
darkness
Yossi
descended,
struggled to find more
he
food,
found a small place
as
to
darkness
rest.
descended,
The only
he
relief
found a
from
small
his
place
gnawing
to
hunger,
rest,
surrounded by the
from his
eerie
gnawing
sounds of the
hunger.
jungle,
It
surrounded
took him
by
a
the
long
eerie
time to
sounds of the
fall
jungle.
asleep, but
It took him a
soon,
long time
a
to
hissing
fall
noise
asleep.
from the nearby
But
bushes
soon,
jolted him
a
awake.
hissing noise from the
Grabbing his
nearby
insect
bushes
repellent for
jolted him
defense.
awake.
He
Grabbing
realized
his
with
insect
horror
repellent
that it
for
wasn't an
defense.
insect he
He
faced.
realized with
It was a
horror
jaguar.
that it wasn't an insect
Yossi
he faced.
launched the first
It was a
attack
jaguar.
against the jaguar.
Yossi
When he
launched
looked
the
again,
first attack against
the
the
jaguar
jaguar.
had already
When he
fled.
looked again,
Exhausted
the
from the
jaguar
intense
had already
encounter,
fled.
Yossi
Exhausted
felt
from the
completely
intense
drained.
encounter, he barely
Yossi
had
felt
any strength
completely
left.
drained.
The next
He
day,
barely had any
Yossi
strength
ventured
left.
further
The
into
next
the jungle.
day,
Before
Yossi
long,
ventured further
he
into the
spotted
jungle.
a broken branch.
Before long,
a clear sign that
spotted
someone
a
might
broken
be nearby.
branch.
A clear
Hopeful,
sign that
he began
someone might
shouting
be
in
nearby.
all directions.
Hopeful,
He wasn't
began
sure how much
shouting
time
in
had
all
passed,
directions.
but suddenly
He wasn't sure
he
how much
noticed
time
two
had
eggs on the
passed,
ground.
but suddenly,
driven by
he
hunger,
noticed two eggs on the
Yossi
ground.
didn't care if they
Driven
were safe
by
to
hunger,
eat.
he broke
Yossi
them
didn't
open
care
and
if they were
swallowed
safe
them
to eat.
whole.
Those
Broke them
eggs were
open
the best
and
thing he'd
swallowed
eaten
them
in
whole.
days.
Those
With
eggs
this
were the best thing
newfound
he'd
energy
eaten in days.
Yossi
With
regained
this
his
newfound
determination
energy,
to keep going.
Yossi
After
regained
traveling
his
a bit
determination
farther,
to keep going.
he came across
After
more
traveling
signs
a
of
bit
human
farther,
presence.
he came
However,
across more
his
signs
excitement
of human
turned to
presence.
disappointment when he
However,
realized the
his
place had been
excitement
abandoned,
turned to disappointment
likely
when
due
he
to
realized
attacks
the
by
place had
wild
been abandoned,
animals.
likely
His
due to
hopes
attacks
crushed.
by wild
Yossi
animals.
felt regret for
His
ever
hopes
leaving
crushed.
home.
He
Yossi felt
questioned
regret
why
for
he'd
ever
chosen
leaving
such a
home.
dangerous adventure.
He questioned why
But
he'd chosen
dwelling on
such
it
a
wouldn't
dangerous
help.
adventure.
His only option
But
was
dwelling
to move
on it
forward.
wouldn't help.
After a
His
brief
only
rest,
option was to move
he
forward.
forced himself to
After a
continue
brief rest,
despite his worsening
he
condition.
forced himself to
Yossi's
continue
feet were in
despite his
terrible
worsening
shape,
condition,
festering
Yossi's
and sticking
feet were
to
in
his socks
terrible
from the journey.
shape.
Festering
Each step
and
was
sticking to
agonizing,
his socks
but
from the
stopping
journey.
wasn't an option.
Each step was
It
agonizing,
would mean certain
but
death.
stopping wasn't an
So
option.
he pressed on through the
It
night.
would mean certain death.
While passing through
So
another
he
part of
pressed
the
on
jungle,
through the night.
he
While
noticed
passing
something
through
promising.
another part of the jungle,
Footprints on the
he
ground.
noticed something promising.
These could belong to Kevin.
Footprints on the ground.
Yossi called out his
These
name,
could belong to
but there was
Kevin.
no response.
Yossi called out
A
his
short
name,
distance away,
but there was no
he saw an
response.
eggshell
A
and
short distance
instinctively
away,
followed the
he saw an
footprints.
eggshell
To
and
his dismay,
instinctively followed the
Yossi realized
footprints.
too late
To
that
his
he had been
dismay,
walking in circles.
Yossi realized
and had
too
returned
late
to
that he had
the
been
same
walking in
spot.
circles,
Devastated,
and had returned to
he
the
threw his
same
backpack
spot.
to the ground
Devastated,
in frustration.
he threw his
After a
backpack
while,
to the ground
he
in
calmed down
frustration.
and reassessed
After a
his
while,
situation.
He calmed
He decided
down
to return
and
to the
reassessed
river
his
and
situation.
follow it downstream.
He decided to
avoid
return to
getting
the
lost
river
again.
and follow it
Finding
downstream
the river
to
would be
avoid getting lost
straightforward.
again.
He just
Finding
needed
the
to
river
listen
would
for
be
the sound
straightforward.
of flowing water.
He just needed to
but
listen
as he
for the
walked,
sound of
rain
flowing
suddenly
water.
began to pour.
But as he walked,
Already weakened,
rain suddenly
the
began to pour.
downpour made his struggle
Already
even
weakened.
harder. The
He had
downpour
no
made
choice
his struggle
but to put on his
even harder.
raincoat and
He had
find
no
shelter.
choice but to
By
put on his
now,
raincoat
Yossi
and find
was
shelter.
completely out of energy.
By now,
The following
Yossi
morning,
was completely
he
out of
discovered
energy.
a water
The
source
following
on
morning,
a nearby cliff.
He discovered
Desperate,
a water source.
he climbed
on a
up
nearby
and
cliff.
drank greedily.
Desperate.
Just then,
he climbed
an
up
airplane
and drank
flew
greedily.
overhead. Just then,
Yossi yelled
an airplane
and waved
flew
frantically,
overhead,
hoping to be
Yossi
seen.
yelled and waved
Despite his
frantically,
efforts,
hoping to be
people on the
seen.
plane neither
Despite
saw
his efforts,
nor heard him.
The people on the
Once
plane
again,
neither saw
Yossi's
nor heard
chance
him.
at rescue
Once
slipped
again,
away.
Yossi's
Frustration
chance at rescue
overwhelmed
slipped
him.
away.
Why was survival proving
overwhelmed
so
him.
difficult?
Why
What
was survival
Yossi didn't
proving
realize
so
was that
difficult?
the appearance of the plane
What
was
Yossi
no
didn't realize
coincidence.
was that the appearance
It
of
turns
the
out
plane
that
was
Kevin,
no
who had been
coincidence.
separated from Yossi,
It turns out that
also
Kevin,
faced
who had
his
been
own
separated from
life-threatening
Yossi,
ordeal.
also
However,
faced his own
he was
life-threatening
fortunate enough
ordeal.
to be rescued
However,
by some local
he was
natives.
fortunate enough to be
After his
rescued
rescue,
by some
Kevin
local
didn't
natives.
forget about Yossi.
After his rescue,
Determined to help,
Kevin didn't forget
he
about
sought assistance
Yossi.
from the local
Determined to
sheriff.
help.
It
He
was
sought
during this time that the
local
aircraft was
sheriff.
dispatched for
It
a
was during
rescue
this
operation.
time that the aircraft
However,
was dispatched for
due
a
to the
rescue
thick
operation.
vegetation of the
However,
Amazon jungle,
due to the
most
thick
rescue
vegetation
efforts
of the
ended in
Amazon
failure.
jungle, the
Most
sheriff
rescue
advised
efforts
Kevin
ended
to
in
abandon the
failure.
search.
The sheriff
Insisting that
advised
no one
Kevin
could
to
survive
abandon
in the
the
jungle
search,
for more than 10
insisting that
days.
no one could
But
survive in
Kevin
the
was
jungle
convinced
for
that
more than
Yossi
10 days.
was still alive.
But Kevin was convinced
Refusing
that
to give
Yossi
up.
was still alive.
He hired a boatman familiar with the
Refusing
river.
to give up, paying a
He hired a
significant
boatman
amount of
familiar
money
with the
to
river.
persuade him.
Paying a
Only then
significant
did
amount
the
of
boatman
money
agree to
persuade him.
venture into the jungle
Only
for a
then did the
search.
boatman agree to
Meanwhile,
venture into the
Yossi,
jungle
who
for a
had
search.
missed the rescue
Meanwhile,
aircraft,
Yossi,
was losing
who
his
had
will to
missed the
survive.
rescue aircraft,
completely
was
drained
losing
both
his will to
physically
survive.
and mentally.
Completely
He could barely
drained both
manage
physically
to walk.
and mentally.
In this dire
He could
state,
barely manage to
Yossi
walk.
unexpectedly
In this dire
encountered
state,
a native woman.
Yossi
Though
unexpectedly
they didn't share a common
encountered
language,
a native woman.
they managed to
Though they didn't
communicate
share a
through
common
gestures
language,
and body
they
language.
managed to communicate
The two
through
became
gestures
companions,
and body language.
relying on each
The
other
two
for
became
survival.
companions.
They scavenged
relying
for
on
food
each
together
other for
during the day,
survival.
and
They
at night,
scavenged for food
Yossi
together during
held the
the
woman
day,
close to
and
keep her
at
warm.
night,
However,
Yossi held
in
the woman
reality,
close to
this
keep her
woman
warm.
didn't
exist. However, in reality, this woman didn't exist. Yossi's imagination. She was merely a figment of Yossi's imagination. Mental deterioration. A hallucination born from his mental deterioration. Disillusion. Yossi's fragile mind between reality and fantasy. Blurring the line between reality and fantasy. Yossi was barely hanging on. At this point, unable to discern whether he was alive or dead. Unable to discern whether he was alive or dead. Deeply concerning. This mental state was deeply concerning. In his dazed condition, disaster struck. Yossi stepped into a swamp. In his dazed condition, and the sudden shock brought him back to his senses. and the
He
sudden
immediately
shock
began
brought him
to
back
struggle.
to his senses.
But the more he fought,
he immediately
the
began to
deeper he
struggle.
sank.
But the
In
more
a
he
matter
fought,
of moments,
the deeper he
Yossi
sank.
found himself
In a matter of
completely
moments,
immobilized.
Yossi found
Desperation
himself
took hold,
completely immobilized.
and he focused on a
Desperation
single leaf
took hold,
within reach.
and he
It was
focused
his
on a
last
single
hope.
leaf within
Luckily,
reach.
the leaf
It was
was
his
sturdy
last
enough
hope.
to support him.
Luckily,
with
the leaf
tremendous
was
effort,
sturdy enough to support
Yossi
him.
managed
With
to pull
tremendous
himself out of
effort,
the swamp.
Yossi
At this
managed
point,
to pull himself
he was
out of the
utterly
swamp.
drained.
At this
Barely
point,
able to move.
He was utterly
In his
drained,
weakened state,
barely able to move.
he noticed a trail of
in his
fire
weakened state
ants nearby.
He noticed
It's
a
well
trail
known
of
that a bite
fire
from these ants
nearby.
is excruciating.
It's well known that a
Often
bite from
described
these
as
ants
pain
is
worse
excruciating,
than death itself.
often described
But now,
as pain worse
Yossi
than
saw an
death
opportunity
itself.
to
But
jolt
now,
himself back
Yossi
to
saw an
consciousness.
opportunity.
He was
to
willing
jolt himself
to endure
back
their
to
bites.
consciousness.
Yossi
He was
grabbed
willing
the branch
to endure their
and
bites.
shook it violently.
Yossi grabbed
one
the
by
branch
one
and
the
shook it
fire
violently.
ants tumbled down
One by
onto
one,
his body.
The
The
fire
searing
ants
pain
tumbled
was
down onto his
unbearable,
body,
but jolted
the
his
searing
mind into
pain was
focus.
unbearable,
With
but
renewed
jolted
clarity,
his mind into focus.
Yossi mustered the
With
strength
renewed
to run.
clarity,
He sprinted
Yossi
with all
mustered
his
the
might
strength
until
to
he
run.
finally reached
He sprinted
the river.
with all his
Gazing
might
up
until
at the
he
twilight
finally
sky,
reached the river.
he decided to rest
Gazing
for
up
a
at
while.
the twilight sky,
As he sat there,
he decided to
a
rest
turtle
for a while.
slowly crawled by.
As he sat there,
starving after
a turtle
days without
slowly
food.
crawled by.
Yossi
starving after
instinctively
days
picked
without
up a rock,
food.
ready to
Yossi
strike.
instinctively
But he
picked up a
hesitated
rock,
and stopped,
ready to strike,
choosing
but
instead
he
to let the
hesitated
turtle
and
keep him
stopped,
company on this
choosing
lonely
instead
and
to let the
desolate
turtle
night.
keep him company
A
on
few
this
days later,
lonely and
Kevin
desolate
arrived
night.
at the riverbank.
A few days later,
guided by the boatman.
Kevin arrived at
He
the
noticed
riverbank,
the makeshift
guided by
distress
the boatman.
signals Yossi
He noticed
had
the
left using
makeshift
logs.
distress signals
However,
Yossi
there was
had
no
left
sign
using
of
logs.
Yossi.
However,
Anywhere.
there was no
Kevin began
sign
to
of
lose
Yossi
hope,
anywhere.
thinking that too much
Kevin
time
began
had
to
passed,
lose hope,
and Yossi
thinking
might
that
no
too
longer
much
be
time
alive.
had passed, and
Disheartened,
Yossi might
he
no longer
prepared
be
to
alive.
leave by boat.
Disheartened,
Before stepping
he
aboard,
prepared to leave by
he kicked a
boat.
piece of wood on the
Before
ground.
stepping aboard,
That seemingly
he kicked a piece of
insignificant
wood on the
action
ground.
was enough to
That
awaken
seemingly
a severely
insignificant
weakened
action
Yossi,
was enough to awaken
summoning
a
every ounce of
severely
strength.
weakened Yossi.
Yossi tried to
Summoning
get up.
every ounce of
Kevin,
strength.
already in the
Yossi
boat,
tried to get
was
up.
drifting away.
Kevin, already in the
Yossi
boat,
opened his mouth to
was
call
drifting
out,
away,
but his voice
Yossi
failed
opened
him,
his mouth to call
robbed
out,
by the
but
endless
his voice
days of
failed
hardship.
him. Robbed by
Helpless.
the endless
He watched
days
as
of
Kevin
hardship.
moved farther
Helpless.
and farther away.
He watched as Kevin
His
moved
spirit
farther
seemed to crumble
and
into
farther
despair.
away.
But
His
just
spirit
in the nick
seemed
of
to
time,
crumble into despair.
Kevin happened to glance
but
back.
just in the nick of time,
His eyes lit up
Kevin
with
happened
excitement
to glance
as he
back.
spotted Yossi.
His eyes lit up
shouting
with
Yossi's
excitement
name.
as he spotted
Kevin
Yossi.
rushed to his side.
Shouting Yossi's
Yossi
name.
was emaciated.
Kevin rushed to his
little
side.
more than skin
Yossi
and
was
bones.
emaciated,
but his face
little more than
radiated
skin
determination
and bones, and an
but his face
unbreakable will.
radiated
At
determination
the end of this
and an
harrowing
unbreakable
journey,
will.
Yossi
At the
was
end
rescued
of this
after
harrowing
surviving
journey.
19
Yossi
grueling
was
days
rescued
in the jungle.
after surviving 19
He became the
grueling
first
days
and
in
only
the jungle.
tourist to make it out
He
alive
became the
under
first
such
and
circumstances.
only tourist to make
This
it out
film is
alive
based
under
on the
such
incredible
circumstances.
true story of
This film is
adventure
based on the
Yossi
incredible true
survival
story
in the
of
Amazon
adventure
jungle in
Yossi
1981.
survival in
It's
the
worth
Amazon
noting that
jungle
Carl,
in
the
1981.
so-called tour guide,
It's worth noting
was
that
later
Carl,
revealed
the
to be a
so-called
wanted
tour
criminal.
guide,
His
was later
scam
revealed
involved
to be
luring
a wanted
tourists
criminal.
into the rainforest
His
to
scam
rob them.
involved luring
Carl,
tourists into
who
the
was supposed to
rainforest
return,
to rob them.
remains
Carl,
missing to
who was
this day.
supposed to return.
Marcus,
remains
the
missing
companion
to
who
this
had left
day.
with him.
Marcus,
Also
the
disappeared
companion
without
who had
a
left
trace.
with him.
Even
Also
a decade after his
disappeared without a
rescue.
trace.
Yossi
In the
returned to
movie,
the Amazon.
The protagonist
He partnered with the
survival
native
is
community
portrayed
to build
as
a
an
lodge
extraordinary feat
and
of
chose to make the
resilience
jungle his
and
home.
determination.